So, am I audible?
Yeah. So let me just introduce some people here. Welcome Lewis. Welcome Jiggy. No, welcome Elvis. Welcome Natasha and Rockstar. So Morgan is going to continue with what he was doing last week. So welcome Morgan. Unaweza endelea.
Okay. Last week we talked about the everything dealing with Eloquent, from migrations, how the importance of or when you compare pure PHP or when you compare pure PHP with Eloquent handling database management using Eloquent, and when you use pure PHP functions. So we talked about everything from CDAS, migrations, traits. We also talked about relationships, things to do with that. So today I'll talk about middleware providers, and I can also jobs and queues. So in our, I don't think if there's a Laravel project you have worked on without any middleware. Is there any? I don't think so, because there is when you're working with web, there's always web middleware. Then when you're working with it, sometimes you can use some which you handle with the API middleware. Then the other one is most of them maybe authentication. Let me check it. Yeah, the authentication middleware. Yeah, for example, when you come to our routes here, so to make it like I don't think if I use the middleware here. Yeah, middleware. There is middleware here. Org. Then there is another here, web. So let's get to API. So a middleware, this is just like a bridge acting between a response and a request. This is just something handling connections between a user request and the server response. So this is just so sorry for that. So most of the time it's just it filters the request entering an application, and also it may help you handle, like, maybe I don't want this request to be authenticated. If a user, for example, you want to get to the homepage, for someone to get to the homepage should not be authenticated, or that route should not be authenticated. What you do, you just get rid of the middleware auth or any other name you have defined using your middleware. So there are specific types of middlewares you can work with. It also provides middlewares most of the time provides functionalities. Most of the commonly used function of a middleware is authentication, or request validation, and also cause handling. Then other types of middleware, I think I have a project I need to show one of the middlewares I used. So there are different types of middlewares. You will come across global, the global middlewares, route, and also group middlewares. So global, they are just they are used to handle all. They are used to handle all the web requests, HTTP and HTTPS requests. Then route middlewares, they are attached to a specific route. For example, here you can see here we have used the middleware web on this specific route. Then I can services. Before we get to the practical part, let me talk about services also. Service providers. At some point, maybe you're handling a module application, then you have to define in every module, you have to define the service provider. Why should you do that? Because services, most of the configurations are done inside the service. So Laravel services and the service provider, most of them, they are just used for configuration, maybe registering other providers, registering maybe maybe sometimes, how do we call this? There's a, yeah, I hope you have been publishing some stuff. Maybe you are publishing a certain tag in a certain, for example, when there's a yeah, this simple this is my settings model to manage user settings. So an example of a service provider, here it is. Generally, the service provider is handling the configurations, like everything related to this module and how the module itself will be working, how it will be loading files, how it will be generating migrations, how it will be getting user-defined modules, and also how it will be publishing files like config files. So a service provider, this is just like a central place for configuring Laravel services. This is just a central place where now you can configure your services. Maybe any action, maybe you want to configure commands, all of them should be done inside your service. For example, you can see here, you have registered console commands to handle everything related to system settings commands. Then maybe I want to get configurations with the application to this specific application you have built. Now you want to, there is where you can merge everything. Like now this statement here, when you use this, I think it will create a certain config file in your config folder. Then the config file will be, it is just used to publish a config file, say that. Then the other one, so that is the work of a service provider. Any configuration, maybe most of the automations and configurations used in your application, most of them should be defined there. Then the other one, we have to talk of jobs and queues. maybe you want to handle a background tax. Maybe you are doing an M-Pesa transaction, or you are paying your employees, and you don't want to for you to wait a request. Most of the time a Laravel request inachukua only 60 seconds, let me say that. So you don't want to wait all that long as you are querying a database, sending requests, M-Pesa requests to handle payments, or you're querying banks to handle the payments. What you can do, you just create a queue, and or you just create, let me say, a job. Here you can use a job where a background task is done. You just send a request, then the request is set as a background task, as an event there. You continue doing your things as maybe you are doing a backup. Let me say, in most cases, a backup. Maybe a backup should take 5 minutes. You can't be there waiting your browser loading for all the 5 minutes. What you should do, you'll just inside make it you'll queue it, then after queuing it, you make it a job. So it will be queued. When ikifikiwa, and then inakuwa executed with then you'll just send an event like your upload, or send an email, your backup is done. You can get it from a specific. Then queues have different drivers. Queues have different drivers. Then most of them, watu wengi, they use Redis. Some use database, and Amazon SQS, and then beans beanstalk, something like that. But most of us are used to Redis and database, where you just your queue driver you set as a database. Those stuffs are done inside your env file, or unless you have a different configuration, custom configuration file where you define that. So it should be most of us do use this. There is another thing. Yeah. Queue connection, here it is. Where everything relating to queue. Sync, it uses, when you use sync, I think it uses, what is it?
When you sync, it uses session or cache, so it does store in somewhere in the storage.
Yeah, sure. I think there's another, is it, apart from database, Redis, and supervisor? Yeah, I was talking of supervisor. Let me. Have you guys come across supervisor?
Yes.
Yeah, I think at some point, yeah, Laravel supervisor, it is also used there to manage queues. Yeah, when you're not using your database, or when you don't want to run queue work on your you don't want to run PHP artisan queue work, you have to use supervisor to manage queues and all that. Yeah, I was looking at that. Then I think they don't queues and supervisor and maybe Redis, they don't work on cPanel. For those using cPanel, I have never had I think that is one of the disadvantages of having cPanels, or anyone who has been on cPanel and they are trying to run queues there or run jobs on cPanel.
Yeah. Most of the time I use it on cPanel. I've used the scheduled jobs. So for me, I do it on the Nini.
How do you do that?
I just run the command. Like I write the command on my Nini, my Doge. Like
CLI.
the work, they don't the schedule work, something like that. Alafu na cron job, na create you create a cron job to run that command.
Oh, you do use, okay, I've got pattern. So I think that is the shortcut when you don't want to use something like a VPS.
So for QSync, for
Okay,
sync,
so
sorry,
yeah.
for sync, most of the time I use it when I'm testing my jobs. Like I want it to run immediately, so I change to sync. So nione kama if there are any, if it's sending ama or not. So that's when I use it. I don't have to wait for like those when the job is queued and we run. No, I just run it to check if everything is okay. Then I can just change the queue connection to probably database, something like that.
There was a certain middleware I was looking for. I don't remember where I used it on a project. How to handle when you're handling middlewares from scratch. What middleware does, and but now we'll just. So as I had said, for example, sometimes maybe I want to prevent maybe in cases where when you're handling user roles and you want to block routes, a user from accessing a certain route or redirecting to a certain route if a user is not having a certain role. So that can be done using a middleware where you want to use gets in specific requests. That it can be done using a middleware where you attach a certain middleware. We can create something like let me find the best. Yeah, let me find this license guard. In license guard, maybe I want to block so yeah, so for example, I want to create a middleware to check user roles when accessing a certain route. Then these are route. I said there are different types of middleware. There are global middlewares which will inspect all other any request that is coming into the server. Then there are route middlewares. These are just injected to specific routes. For example, here when we are talking about roles, since they for me to access the homepage, I don't need to be logged in. I'll get rid of that middleware of accessing a certain page using a certain role. So, for example, here let me create a middleware called PHP Artisan. You just make the way you make a model. You just make a middleware. Then you pass in your middleware name. Let's say handle user role. Yeah, that way. So I've been told that my middle has been created successfully. The path is HTTP middleware. So yeah. Now here's my middleware. Okay. Let's see how it. So this is my middleware. It will come with the function to handle. Now this is a function to handle your request. You can either redirect a request from here or make it go to the next action. So for example, maybe I don't think if I used roles here, but I want to, for anyone, if I inject this middleware to a certain route, the user must be logged in, and also maybe the user must be an admin. Let me say that. So what I'll do, I'll just say, maybe I'll put here condition. If request user um, you say all is equals to none. And first I should check if the user is logged in first. I'll say to check if maybe the user, there's different ways, but I'll just use the normal one. You can use the auth function, but I'll just use the normal one from the request. I'll get user from, then say or. So else I'll return a redirect to home. So this is a middleware that will be blocking. If I inject it somewhere, it will be checking if the user is logged in. Yeah, let this be and not or, because it might pass. And there is a and the user should be an admin. The request should be having a valid authenticated user, and also the user should be an admin. So if not, it will redirect back to the home of this route. Then after that, now you have to register your middleware. Middleware registration, you can do it in, I think for those who are using the other, is it Laravel 8 and below or something, where there is a file called kernel dot something. Which version was that file removed?
I think it's below 11. Below 11. I mean, above 11, there's no kernel in the console and under the console.
Okay.
Yeah, so version 11, 12, there's no kernel.
Okay. Yeah. Just I think just a minute, because I'm used to the other. Okay, I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen how to do that. So maybe let me register that. I'll call middleware and then alias, then pass in this array. So middleware name is check. Then I give it that specific class user role. So that is a middleware registration. When I pass it, you get to Bootstrap folder, and then you get to Bootstrap folder, and then inside with that middleware, you define your middleware inside there, give it the name, and then the class where the is like where you have defined your middleware. So after that, there are different. These I think is one of the best ways to the middleware name inside your route. So after registration, or what to do next is now to go to your specific route. You can come here, then check where, maybe this one. Let me say this one. Then what I'll do here is now to give it a specific middleware. Maybe my middleware, I gave it the name check if is admin. Maybe I want to block only admin users can send M-Pesa requests, or they can only capture. But this one, I'm just giving it as an example. But logically, callbacks they should not get. They should not be authenticated in the first place. I'm just giving it as an example. Don't take it logically. So I'll just give it a check if is an admin. So anytime an M-Pesa callback will be sent, if it will not be having maybe a user authentication token or any authentication tool you have used here, it will be redirecting back to the home this route path. So that is an example of a middleware. There is another way of how you can call that middleware here. I'm using I've seen now someone has sent a message here saying okay. Yeah. So there is another way when you don't want to register but you want to call your middleware direct into a route. There is another way of how you can do that. You can call it directly. you can maybe, when I don't want, I'll just call my class directly here. Let's say handle user. Yeah, I'll just pass the class string here. By default, this gives a class path string, so you just pass it here if you don't want to use the normal registration procedures where you have to pass to come register your middleware here and then give it a name, then you use the name anywhere else in the program. So that is it. Then I think there is nothing much to add on middleware when it comes to there, as long as you know the logic, what it does, and how to register it, how to create it, and also how to use it. So we have created a middleware button, make middleware. When you're using a module library, you can use module, make middleware, something like that. Then you give it a middleware name. Then you give it a module name, or when you're using an unmodular application like this, you just you make your middleware, and then it will get to app HTTP, then that specific middleware for directory. After that, you get to Bootstrap. Here's Bootstrap here. You get to app.php. Inside app.php, inside with middleware, you now define your middleware there. Using middleware alias, then you pass in all other middlewares you want. These I was told these from Laravel 11 to the current version we are using now. Then the other thing is services. There are service providers and also services. There is like an app service provider here. Here I'm using Filament. Now here's the problem. I don't think we can use this since but here I'm using Filament, so that is not the appropriate. We can use, let me see, Smart HR. I think so. So for Smart HR, now for service providers, the same way we just created a middleware. Now you just at this point you give it PHP artisan make service, make provider. Then it will you give it a provider name, maybe a service provider, a custom service provider, any name you'd want. After that, your provider will be created inside app, then providers. There is where you'll create. Yeah, most of the time you'll be having this app service provider. So as I had said, services. This is just the best part of where Laravel configuration works. Everything about any configuration, where to get a certain file, where to register certain stuff, it works. All of them works inside a service provider. So like here, get is defined here, maybe to give, if a user has role, it is giving this it will give the user access of everything, something like that. Then this one is an event to listen to events that are coming. Then a backup provider, Yeah, that way. Then microservice provider, all that. So an app service provider, most of your applications will be having this, because unless you have defined your own, then after that, you can see register here. Register, maybe you want to add your custom service now. You have created your custom service, you want to register your service. You register it from here. Then most of the time, let me say, maybe I'm having a service called app service provider. I'm just calling it that way. What I'll do, I'll come here, then I register my application, my service here. I can call it app service provider. Then inside here, I'll return that one. So that is it when I want to register my new service. So you have created your own service, but you want now to register it. Maybe, let's say, M-Pesa transaction service or something like that. So you have to, this is how you will register the service inside your app service provider. That was just an example, not logical because I've reused the same application. I've used the same class name here. Then additional, all the boot logic done inside here. When you are programming or when you are using everything, we registered using this one. All the boot up logic is done here. Then registration of at some point, maybe there might be people who used to use config. I think it was sometimes being passed here inside. There was like providers. Yeah, and then I think currently you might pass them here. Yeah. Currently you might pass them here. If you don't want to register them directly there, you might pass them here. Bootstrap and then providers. I think these are new feature in Laravel 11. The others were being passed in app.php. There was a place that was being added inside here. Due to time, I think I will not talk a lot because I came late. Sorry for that. Then maybe any other time I'll be given, I'll try considering time. Sorry guys for coming late, but just asking them there or on the wall, or we'll be there to respond.
You done, Morgan?
Yeah, due to time, let me just finish at that point.
Thank you, Morgan, for the good presentation. Okay. Someone has asked a question.
Okay.
Can you group the middleware in the web?
Hey, you can do that. You can group them. In the web, meaning?
I think what he means is can you group like using, I think what
more than one middleware on.
Yeah, from the way, okay, I think if we can allow him to ask again. It's Jay. Jay, you can unmute and ask your question. Make us understand the question.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, Jay, I can hear you.
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay. The question is like whatever is in the screen. See, like this one is the authenticate. It is the way this route is. It's grouped. using the default auth. Now, assuming that you've created your custom role or middleware, instead of giving individual routes or assigning individual routes, these certain middleware, let's say you have like five routes that need to be assigned to, let's say, someone like super admin, the way you had define it. Now, can you group those five groups, those five routes?
Those five example is I have a middleware profile, and I want to. The middleware should be only. The middleware should only be functional on these routes. What I'll do, I'll just write maybe route. I group these. Let me group them. I group these routes. Let me first. I should pass a function. Yeah, then I can get all these from here. So yeah, then what should I do next? I give them this middleware. Let me give them middleware profile. That is like, is this what you wanted?
Yeah, exactly. It's okay.
Yeah, that is what you'll do. You just another group of another group to handle that section of or the mid or the actions or the routes you want the middleware to act upon. Just create a route, then you define your group. You add those routes inside that group. I thought you were asking something middleware groups. I thought you are talking of middleware groups, but if it is that one, like here now, all these routes inside here will be acted upon using authentication. They must be authenticated for you to access these routes. So you can see they are all grouped into and acted upon by this middleware called auth. Inside there we have another one. This is just prefix, but you can still put or add another middleware here. I hope your question is now answered. Any other?
Me, I have a question. This one is
Yep.
regarding the jobs. When you've done you've hosted on the VPS. You've hosted on the VPS before.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have a scheduled jobs, for example, you have scheduled jobs that send emails to users after an action, and you've hosted on that VPS. Are there any configurations that you do, or it just runs automatic, like once it's on the server?
Oh, I think most of them they do use most of them they do use Redis
Mm-hmm.
or yeah. I think their configuration you need to use. Maybe you want to use Redis server. Now you configure your Redis server, you install it, and then you that the session should run using configuration. When your session driver is used to sessions, right? I think when you're when you have defined your queue connection, you'd need to when you want to use a supervisor, there are configurations you need to do. I think you have to define the path where the path and the command that supervisor will be running for it to keep the queues working. I think there's certain configurations you need to do there. I don't know if I'm having supervisor here. We try that. I don't have supervisor right now.
Okay.
Yeah, but there are configurations that you need to do so that those queues can be just synchronize itself kama we mwenyewe auziran.
Okay. That's fine. Another question is on middlewares. Like for a person who has been developing, probably someone would want to know what are the common like for you, based on your experience, what are the common middlewares you think someone can use to simplify his or her work?
Normally common middlewares, it is the auth middleware that is used for authentication. That is just a common. Most of the when you start your Laravel project, then you make sure you generate authentication files. This is just a normal middleware. Web is a normal middleware. When you're using API is a normal middleware. Then cause handling also, that is just a normal. They are trusted proxies that most of them zinakuwa hapa kwa config. Let me see. I think all providers then.
Like aside from that, zile zako, the ones that make your work easier.
Oh, the ones that make my work easier.
Yeah, like
maybe like I'm having now. Maybe I offer the service, and the software on you have seen me. Nilikuwa natafuta hapa ingine. I have a system called License Guard here to manage systems running on licenses. So what I'll do, I'll create a middleware. So I had a middleware that handles that. What it does, maybe most of the people, I think this is a common problem. Maybe the system should shut down after 30 days itself from the day the user subscribed. What I'll do, I'll create a middleware that will be maybe caching the responses, or in any way you'll use. Maybe now I should block users from logging in, or I should be displaying messages like pay for this service for it to be up, something like that. So I'll get a middleware inside my application to be checking, or it will be now hitting my API to check if the license has expired. Then it allows the users now to automatically use the system. Else, it will be blocking all those requests. That is one of the middlewares I've used. Then the other common middleware is a role middleware, but at some point you might use Get if you want to make things easier. Or if there's a role middleware. Then the other one maybe the other one is a middleware. I used to, like, when I've run an upgrade on my system, things like migrations, things like seeding, they should be done automatically. What I'll do, I'll just create a middleware to be checking if there is any new migration that has not been migrated yet. It is there, and then it will be alerting or running commands by it is creating jobs or events that will be running those commands for me by default without going to my server to run PHP artisan all the time. That is another middleware that you can use when handling that. Then maybe I want to log every day. I want to log every middleware. I want to log every request under the IP address of the sender of the request. Also create middleware to that. Then also there is a middleware to call or to allow a user to access to send continuous requests only for a specific time. Maybe I want to block users the same IP address from hitting this API endpoint for too long. So what I'll do, I'll create a middleware of doing that. So those are some of the middlewares I've been using since I started working on this.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Would you still use Redis for let's say 500,000 processing of emails ama SMS ama nini?
Will you?
Would you still use Redis
Can you repeat your question? Can you repeat your question, please?
Alpin, ongea vizuri.
Would you still use Redis to process, let's say, 500,000 jobs?
Use what?
Redis as a queue, as a queue connection to send 5,000 emails.
Yeah, I think Redis can be used to do that. As most of the time, I've not been using. Who is this? I've not been using my queue manager or queue connection handler. I've been using Redis to do that. So most of you'll find Redis is used in any of the application you'll be coming. So Redis can do that.
So let's say like okay, sijui kama ni off topic, but if you are using Redis, since Redis inakula, let's say RAM ya machine sana, of course, and the application is still running depending on that RAM. So let's say if you're processing 500k jobs and you are using Redis and all of this is stored in the RAM, si machine server itazima ama ihang or something, or like how would you handle all of that scenario?
What? Ama ni mimi nasikia your voice is breaking, unaongea fiti.
Nakusikia wewe ndio una break.
Yeah, yeye ndo ana break. Mi sauti yangu iko vizuri.
Okay. Let me check on my network then.
Did you get the question? Ama bado?
Acha just network kwanza. Probably someone.
Hello, yes.
Mtu mwingine anaweza ask a question Morgan akiwa na prepare for the internet. I mean akiwa na fix internet.
I think amerudi.
But alianza kuongea.
Okay, hello.
Yeah, Morgan.
Hello.
Yes, Morgan.
Yeah. I was I wanted to say like when it comes to something like memory management and also like resource management, also the time develop. But maybe I haven't been in that situation where I did find like Redis is taking memory. But since with my understanding, supervisor by default, supervisor doesn't any memory boost to run a certain command, PHP keyword command, and to make sure this is running by itself, so it doesn't take memory. Then Redis by itself, since it is taking memory when storing all those, it will just use the developer or the programmer himself. When sometimes you need to maybe to make your cache, maybe when you're handling cache using Redis, reduce or make when you're storing a huge amount of data inside. What you need to do is now to make sure the cache expires within the shortest period of time. Maybe you're handling maybe more than you are running more than maybe a hospital managed system. You are using one VPS to have like 10 clients, and in these 10 clients, you're caching like insurance or products. You're caching products, so make sure these products they expire within the shortest period of time. Then you again you cache them again. So your caching policy is the one that will make sure your caching and policy is the one that will make you be able to store a lot of information and make your system take a lot of memory or store less to make your system take less memory. So with the optimization depends on the developer themselves. So it is you to get a way of, since you have the basic knowledge of what to do, get a way of getting out of that. Have I answered your question?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. When you database by default, database when you are using database for queuing, I think database by default will be taking up your memory. So I didn't talk about that. Any other question?
Anyone with a question? Comment? Feedback? No one? So there's no one with a comment. So I think we can close it at this point. We call it